The lights in Hank Laydon's subterranean facility never flickered. They only hummed. Low, constant, almost comforting. Embedded deep beneath reinforced concrete and rock, where no satellite, no spirit, and no unauthorized signal could penetrate without permission. At the center of the primary training chamber, Marta Roczek stood barefoot on cold steel. The room was vast but empty, except for her and what surrounded her. Around her, the air vibrated visibly. Concrete blocks suddenly tore themselves free from the walls, ripping out in violent bursts before freezing mid-flight. They hung suspended around her in a precise geometric formation, rotating slowly as if obeying a silent command. Marta raised her hand. The blocks slammed together, one after the other, compressing into a single mass before stopping less than a breath from her face. She released them with another wave, and they flew back, bouncing off the reinforced wall. The floor shook as the concrete crashed down, dust rolling outward like fog. Before the echoes faded, the temperature dropped. Not from cold, but from an eerie absence. Marta closed her eyes and the veil lifted. The dead pressed close. They crowded the edges of perception, whispering in broken echoes, desperate to be acknowledged, growing ever closer. Marta spoke quietly in Polish. "Na Tyla." Enough. The spirits recoiled at her voice. With a pulse of psychic pressure, she sealed the space, collapsing the veil between worlds. The whispers vanished. The room warmed and silence returned. Then, a vision flickered in her mind. An island, a dark castle, halls and tunnels running with blood. She opened her eyes sharply. The pressure vanished. Behind reinforced observation glass, Hank Laydon watched her intently. "You felt it, didn't you?" he said through the intercom. "Yes," Marta replied. "A island full of death." Hank nodded once. "That's why I'm here." She read Hank's thoughts and left the training area, meeting up with him in the briefing room. Hank activated the hologram as she entered. An island rotated slowly in the air. Dense jungle, a huge castle carved into volcanic stone, floodlights still burning despite no visible power source. "Pacific Site," Hank said. "Classified Black Island." Marta's gaze hardened. "I've seen it." The image shifted. A figure in a long duster moved through the jungle perimeter. The coat was torn. The boots dragged unevenly. A cowboy hat sat low over a face no longer human. The figure stopped suddenly, looking around as if it felt watched. It sniffed the air. "Buck Granger," Hank said. "One of Malcolm's assets." Marta studied him. "He's unstable," she said. "But this is just recent." "Minutes, not days," Hank confirmed. "He was sent on a rescue attempt, took on a fight he couldn't handle, lost himself, turned feral, and vanished into the interior." The hologram changed again. A young woman appeared. Pale, tattooed, and restrained, moving through a fenced compound. Marta's breath slowed. "Hallie Waltone," Hank said. "Also on the island." Marta looked up sharply. "You're not sure?" "No," Hank said evenly. "We've lost all signals from her." Marta leaned back slightly. "You want me to retrieve this feral ghoul and a living prisoner from the same containment zone?" "Yes," Hank replied. "And you don't know which one will kill your teams first?" "Correct." Marta fell silent for a moment. Buck's image flickered. his head snapping toward something unseen, posture changing from obedience to predation. He was never meant to think independently, Marta said. Hank folded his hands. My brother builds weapons, he said. He forgot they could break. And Hallie? Marta asked. What is she to him? Hank didn't answer immediately. She's another asset, he said finally. And a dangerous liability. Marta closed her eyes briefly, listening to the voices beyond the veil. This is not a hunt, she said. This is extraction. Bring them both back alive, Hank said, if possible. She opened her eyes again. And if not? Hank met her gaze. Prioritize Hallie. Marta stood. You're asking me to walk into a place soaked in fear, she said, with something that has just forgotten it can choose. Hank nodded once. That's why I'm asking you to accompany the extraction team. She turned toward the exit. One more thing, she said without looking back. Buck isn't completely feral, and Hallie doesn't want to return. Hank frowned. We lost contact. The island is loud, Marta butted in, and none of it is good. The door sealed behind her as she left. Far away in the Pacific, Buck Granger stood knee-deep in jungle shadow, blood fresh on his hands. He tilted his head. For the first time since loosing his grip, fear flickered across his feral grin. Something was coming, and it wasn't exactly human. The boat cut through the Pacific like a blade through butter. Its engine was low and quiet, designed not to announce itself to radar or to anything listening beneath the water. Marta Roczek sat alone near the bow, coat drawn tight, her eyes fixed on the dark line where ocean met sky. The rest of the team stayed inside. They never spoke to her openly. They were all afraid of her. They couldn't hide the fact, not from her. The island was still hours away, giving Marta too much time to think. The salt air stung her senses, and without warning, the present slipped into memory. Wrocław, Poland, 30 years ago. A 6-year-old girl stood barefoot in the snow outside a crumbling orphanage, her thin coat hanging open as if she'd forgotten to close it. Her lips were blue, not from cold, but from shock. They will scream, she said quietly in Polish. Not now. Later. When the ground breaks. No one listened. They never did when she spoke of her visions. 3 days later, a factory in the city exploded exactly as she described. Pressure failure, a secondary ignition, and the whole place collapsed into a hole. Hundreds dead, and Marta Roczek had predicted it all. Then, Bill Laydon arrived. He knelt in front of her instead of standing over her. That mattered. It was a sign of respect. You're not in trouble, Bill said gently, his accent thick but careful. I just want to understand how you knew what would happen. Marta stared at him with eyes far too old for her face. I didn't know, she said. I saw it in my head before it happened. They all screamed as it fell. Bill swallowed hard. That was the moment he realized she wasn't guessing. Bill took over care of Marta and took her to his Boston facility. It was cold, sterile, and frightening at first, but Bill tried to make it kind and as comfortable as possible. Marta remembered him bringing her books in Polish and English, refusing to let the staff shave her hair like they did the others, insisting she eat meals away from the observation glass. He was always trying to make her feel normal. He never raised his voice, even when his machines failed, even when her answers didn't make sense. "Where does the future come from?" he asked once, adjusting electrodes that showed nothing unusual. "Is it memory? Probability? A signal you get?" Marta shrugged, swinging her legs from the examination table. "It's already there," she said. "You're just walking toward it without knowing." Bill smiled sadly. That didn't help. He ran test after test. EEGs, MRIs, sensory analysis, stress simulations. Nothing abnormal appeared on any of them. Her brain was normal, and yet... "Tell me what I'm thinking," Bill said one evening, exhausted, slumped in a chair. He closed his eyes and said nothing. Marta looked up from her drawing. "You're afraid," she said. "Not of me, of what it means that I exist." He opened one eye, looking up at the ceiling, but still said nothing. He tucked her in at night when the nightmares came, held her when she screamed about things that hadn't happened yet. He never called her a specimen, a weapon, or even a patient. "You don't owe me answers," he told her once, sitting beside her bed while thunder shook the mountain outside. "You don't owe the world anything." She watched him carefully. "You're lying," she said softly. Bill laughed, not denying it. "Maybe," he admitted, "but I'm trying to understand." Years passed. Marta grew sharper, quieter, more distant with every passing year. Bill's notes grew frantic, scribbles of uncertainty covered page after page. No source, no trigger, no limit to her ability. She passes every test with absolute normality. One night, long after he thought she was asleep, Marta heard him speaking into a recorder. "She doesn't bend reality. She listens to it. And reality, it answers her back." He stopped the recording there. "And I don't know why," he whispered to himself. The boat lurched slightly as it hit a swell. Marta opened her eyes sharply. The memory faded, but the ache remained, dull and permanent. Bill Laydon never solved her, but he protected her. Until the day he didn't come home. Marta clenched her gloved hands, psychic energy humming faintly beneath her skin. "They still don't know the secret," she murmured to the sea. "Neither did you." Ahead, the island rose from the darkness, green, silent, and waiting for them. Somewhere within it, Buck Granger was breaking, and Hallie was already gone. Marta stood as the boat slowed. Whatever Bill Laydon had tried to understand, Hank Laydon intended to use, and Marta intended to repay Bill's kindness, but not at the cost of her freedom. The boat scraped against black volcanic sand with a dull, grinding sound. The jungle loomed immediately beyond the beach, dense and wet, surrounding the abandoned castle that loomed ominously in the center. Armed personnel fanned out instinctively, weapons up, boots sinking into sand. Their flashlights cut weak paths through the foliage, beams crawling with insects. Marta Roczek stepped onto the island last. She paused and closed her eyes. The island exhaled. Pain lingered here. Fear, hunger, torment. The dead were restless, layered over one another like footprints that never faded. The field commander, a hard-eyed man with salt streaking his beard, turned toward her. "We've secured the landing zone. No contact so far." "This place is empty," she said calmly. Marta opened her eyes and looked straight at him. get a secure channel to Malcolm Laydon, she said. The commander hesitated. Our orders have changed, Marta interrupted, her tone flat but final. Hallie is no longer on this island. She's escaped, Marta continued. You don't know it yet because your systems are blind to intent, but she's gone. The commander stared at her for a beat, then nodded sharply. I'll make the call. As he turned away, Marta was already walking past him. I'm leaving the perimeter, she added over her shoulder. Do not follow me. Marta moved into the jungle alone. Within seconds, the air thickened around her. She stopped beside a cave entrance, placed her palm against the moss-covered wall, and let the veil thin. They came immediately, whispers layered over whispers, panicked, furious, confused, prisoners and vampires all dying badly, bodies torn apart, and beneath it all, movement. He runs wild, Marta murmured. He's almost lost forever. A presence pushed forward, older, quieter, and frightened. Opposite shore, it whispered, where the waves break wrong, where he forgot his name. Marta nodded once. That's enough. The voices retreated obediently. She turned back toward the beach and keyed her comm. There's a survivor, she said. Human, military. He's one of Malcolm's. The commander responded instantly. Location? Southern shoreline, making his way towards you as we speak. He's shocked, and he's been announcing himself for a while. Announcing? Yes, Marta said. Loudly. Moments later, as if on cue, a distant voice echoed faintly through the trees, carried by the wind. Hello, is anybody there? Friendly. If anyone can hear me, it's Gusta. Marta almost smiled. Send a team to retrieve him, she said. He's needed back home. What about you? The commander asked. Marta looked east, toward where the island grew darker and heavier. I'm going after Buck Granger. She stopped at the edge of a rocky outcrop overlooking the jungle canopy. Far off, something howled, not with rage, but confusion. Marta crouched, placing her hand on the stone beneath her boots, and pulled. The rock tore free with a deep, thunderous crack, lifting into the air as if gravity had lost interest. The stone steadied beneath her feet, as if attuned to her rhythm. Marta directed it with a raised hand, and she rose above the tree line, coat snapping in the wind. Far away, something moved fast through the trees. Long strides, feral intent, a cowboy hat briefly catching moonlight before vanishing again. Found you, she said quietly. With a wave, the stone surged forward, cutting through humid air as Marta launched herself across the island, silently. While behind her, the team secured the beach, and Malcolm Laydon was about to receive news he wasn't ready to hear. And ahead, Buck Granger ran, no longer knowing whether he was hunter, prey, or being reclaimed. The jungle thinned abruptly. Stone replaced soil. Roots gave way to jagged rock, slick with moisture. Marta stepped down carefully in front of a small cave entrance. The rock she was levitating on crumbled as she stepped off. She flicked on a flashlight and entered. She crept forward, the air growing colder with every pace. The spirits had gone quiet here. Not absent, just watching. Ahead, the tunnel narrowed, then widened into a large chamber. He's hiding, she murmured. No, he's waiting. The tunnel narrowed quickly before the chamber, forcing her to angle sideways. Faint light filtered in from cracks above, just enough to illuminate claw marks gouged deep into the stone. Then she heard it. A wet, grinding sound. Chewing, teeth gnawing on bone. Marta stopped. 20 meters ahead, crouched low in the tunnel with his back to her, Buck Granger gnawed on something pale and splintered. A Draugur's leg bone, stripped clean, cracked loudly between his teeth. His duster was torn to rags, hat still clinging stubbornly to his head like a mockery of who he used to be. He froze, sniffing loudly. Then slowly he turned. Corpse white eyes locked onto her. For half a second, just half, there was recognition on his face. Then instinct won. Buck charged, launching himself forward with feral speed, claws extended, mouth open in a snarl that echoed through the tunnel. Marta didn't flinch. She just lifted her hand, and the air locked around him. Buck slammed into an invisible wall mid-leap, limbs thrashing uselessly as his momentum died instantly. He hung there, suspended in midair, snarling, muscles bulging as he fought against her telekinetic grip. "You're not thinking anymore," Marta said calmly. "That makes this easier." Buck roared and pushed back. The force of his resistance rippled through the tunnel, dust raining from the ceiling. Marta's jaw tightened as she felt the strain, raw, feral fury, slamming against her control. "Enough!" she shouted in Polish as she clenched her fist. Buck was driven downward, forced to his knees with a violent impact that fractured stone beneath him. He howled, thrashing fiercely, trying to rise up, but failed. Marta extended both hands now, breath measured but strained. A prison field bloomed into existence around him, translucent, shimmering, humming with compressed psychic energy. The air warped as the field sealed shut over him, locking Buck inside like an insect in amber. He slammed his fists against it, over and over uselessly. Cracks spidered briefly across the surface, then healed. Marta staggered half a step. There it was, that dull ache blooming behind her eyes. She pressed her lips together tight, refusing to let it show. "It's only mild," she muttered to herself. "Don't be so dramatic." She steadied the field, reinforcing it layer by layer, until Buck's struggle slowed from fury to exhausted, feral snarling. Only then did she tap her calm. "Target secured," she said evenly. "Buck Granger is contained. Send backup to my position. Heavy restraints only." A moment later, "Copy that," the commander replied. "On our way." Marta leaned lightly against the cave wall, one hand still raised, maintaining the prison field. The headache pulsed slowly, a sharp warning, but it didn't grow. She knew better than to ignore it. The more she pushed, the worse it would become. Migraines that blurred futures, pain that fractured thought, and eventually, blackouts. She looked at Buck, kneeling inside the field, breath ragged, animalistic eyes burning with hate and confusion. "You ran because you were afraid," she said quietly. "That doesn't make you free." Buck snarled weakly in response. Marta straightened as footsteps echoed faintly from the tunnel behind her. The hunt was over, and she had paid only a small price. This time. By the time the team had Buck under restraints, her headache was gone. "Take him back to the ship and keep him sedated. Then ship him and Gusta straight to the drop-off point," she said as they left the cave. The commander looked at her with raised brows. "What about you?" "I'll meet you there," she replied, lifting her hand and raising a large chunk of rock beneath her feet into the air. He said nothing, just followed his men back to the ship as Marta flew away into the night. The transport platform descended into Hank Laydon's training facility with a low hydraulic hum. Marta stepped off unsteadily. Salt still clung to her coat. Her face was pale, eyes shadowed, but her posture remained disciplined and controlled. Hank Laydon was waiting. He didn't clap. He didn't smile. He simply looked at her as if reassessing the limits of reality. 3 miles, he said finally. Across open ocean with no visual markers and no rest. Marta shrugged faintly. The island didn't want me anymore. Hank shook his head once, a rare expression of genuine awe crossing his face. You levitated that far, he said, quieter now. After subduing Buck, after containment, after the headache. She met his gaze. I wouldn't recommend it, she replied. I won't be doing it often. Hank nodded, taking that seriously. You didn't achieve what I asked, he said. Buck was recovered, but Hallie is still missing. That earned no response, just a look of irritation. No matter, you're cleared to stand down, Hank continued. Medical flagged strain markers, but nothing acute. You should take time to recover. Marta inclined her head, then she walked past him slowly. Her room was small, just a single bed, a metal desk, and a narrow locker. No windows, no personal effects beyond a few folded clothes and a book she never reread. She showered in silence, watching seawater and dust spiral down the drain. A mild headache lingered faintly, like a ghost of pain rather than pain itself. She dressed, lay down, and turned off the light. Sleep came quickly, too quickly. But with it came echoes of the past. Suddenly she was 13 again. The lab lights were too bright, too white, so bright they hurt her eyes. She stood in Bill Laydon's office, hands clenched at her sides, breathing fast. It's going to happen, she said. I saw it. Bill looked up from his notes, already tired. Marta. 3 weeks, she interrupted. Not today, not tomorrow. 3 weeks from now. Bill set the pen down. What happens? He asked quietly. Her voice shook. Subject 117 breaks containment. Not by force, by patience. It waits until you change the schedule, until the night staff is lighter. Bill's face drained of color. It kills everyone in its path, she continued, tears threatening but not falling. 14 staff, and security too. It doesn't stop until it reaches the main gate. Bill stood abruptly. No, he said. That won't happen. You die, Marta whispered shakily. The words landed like a weapon in his ears. Bill knelt in front of her, gripping her shoulders gently but firmly. Listen to me, he said. We will stop it. I will stop it, he stammered. 3 weeks later, just as she predicted. Sirens blaring, red lights flashed. Screaming filled the halls. Marta stood frozen in the corridor as alarms wailed. The air stank of blood and burning circuitry. She saw Subject 117 only in fragments. Too fast, too strong, its shape refusing to stay consistent. Security fire tore through it and meant nothing. Bill was shouting orders. Marta, stay back. She ran, trying to reach him. Subject 117 struck him first, not out of cruelty, out of inevitability. She screamed as Bill was thrown across the lab, his body hitting glass hard enough to shatter it. The spirits advanced on Subject 117, as if on command. It backed away quickly, but Bill, he didn't get up. Around him, people had died exactly as she had seen. 14 of them. Then it reached the gates. Metal screamed as the creature tore them open and just vanished into the night like it had never existed. Marta woke gasping, sitting upright in her bed. Her hands were shaking. The room was dark, silent, and safe. She pressed her palm against her forehead, willing the memory back into the past where it belonged. "You tried," she whispered into the emptiness. "You really did." Marta lay back down, staring at the ceiling until her breathing steadied. Some visions could not be prevented, only survived. And in the dark, far below the surface, Project X continued to build on the shoulders of the man who had died trying to protect her. The dream faded, but its echo did not. That evening, Marta stood barefoot in the training chamber once again. The room rang with impact after impact. Steel pylons slammed toward her from every direction, their trajectories erratic, their speed brutal. She didn't move at first, only watched, calculating their angles, momentum, and intent. Then she stepped forward. Time seemed to hesitate. One pylon froze mid-swing, another collapsed inward as if crushed by invisible hands. A third shattered against an unseen barrier less than a meter from her body. Marta rotated her wrist slowly, guiding the wreckage down with deliberate care. Her breathing never changed. The chamber fell silent, briefly. "Marta!" Hank's voice came through the intercom, sharp this time. "I need your help." She lowered her hand. "I guess it's serious," she said, smirking. She left the training hall and met Hank in the briefing room. The projection showed a woman sitting alone in a police interview room. No restraints, no guards, just a tired face and bruised wrists. "She's killed 7 men," Hank said. "All lovers, all consensual relationships, and all dead within days." Marta leaned closer. "They don't fight?" she asked. "No signs of struggle," Hank confirmed. "Internal trauma only. Organs ruptured from the inside." Marta's jaw tightened. "And she keeps turning herself in?" "Yes. Always calm and cooperative, then released without proof. No evidence." "The thing inside her is careful," she said. "It hides because it knows what happens when we find out its name." Hank nodded grimly. "We've already tried clergy, psychics, even chemical suppression, but every attempt makes it more violent." Marta met his gaze. "Then it's learning." The woman sat in a reinforced chair behind a pane of transparent alloy. She looked relieved when Marta entered, as if salvation had arrived at last. "Thank God," the woman said, voice trembling. "They said you might be able to help me." Marta didn't answer. She felt it immediately. Not a presence, an absence, like a hole behind the woman's eyes where something should have been. Marta circled her slowly. "You don't remember hurting Peter, Joseph, Thomas, Henry, or Jeremy. Any of them," Marta said. The woman shook her head quickly. "No, I loved them." Marta stopped behind her. "Then why does your pulse spike when I mention their names?" The woman fell silent, her eyes drifting downwards. Marta placed 2 fingers gently against the woman's temple. The room's lights began flickering erratically. Suddenly, she screamed as invisible forces slammed her back against the restraints, metal creaking under pressure. Marta was thrown backward, barely catching herself against the wall. Then a growl echoed through the room. Low, layered, and eerily wrong. "There you are," Marta said softly. The woman's head lifted slowly. Her eyes were black now, deep and still. Her face contorted as if something crawled beneath her skin. "You should have left," the thing whispered through her open mouth. "She was happy with me." Marta stepped forward. "You hollowed her out," she said. "You killed through her." The thing smiled. "They offered themselves," it hissed. "I only finished what desire started." Then it lunged, restraints snapped like wire. The woman flew toward Marta with unnatural speed. Marta caught her midair, telekinetic force, locking her in place, inches from impact. The pressure was immense as the thing fought back with savage will, slamming against Marta's mind like a battering ram. She gritted her teeth. "Say your name." "Never," it growled. "You hide your name," she said, "because you know it binds you." The thing shrieked in fury. Marta tightened her psychic grip, not on the body, but on the space the entity occupied. She compressed reality around it, squeezing the place where it hid. The woman screamed out in pain. The entity retaliated. Visions flooded Marta's mind. Of fire, graves, screaming crowds, of centuries of persecution and rage. The psychic backlash drove her to one knee, pain detonating behind her eyes. "Say it," Marta demanded through clenched teeth. "Say your name, now!" The thing laughed, a wet, broken sound. "I don't need one. I am many," it snarled. Marta screamed. Not aloud, but with her mind, forcing the pressure tighter, cutting off the entity's ability to retreat. The walls cracked, lights shattered, and blood trickled from her nose. The woman's mouth stretched impossibly wide as something ancient clawed its way toward speech. "No!" it hissed. "Give me your name," Marta roared. The word tore itself free, like a confession ripped from a throat, bellowed, not spoken. "Dibuk." The name reverberated through the room, through Marta's bones, through the veil itself. Marta seized it instantly. The containment field inverted, folding inward as she commanded reality to reject the entity. Shadows ripped free from the woman's chest, forming a skeletal silhouette screaming in fury. "Dibuk," Marta said, voice shaking but absolute. "You are bound to the dead. Return to them. You are not wanted here." The entity thrashed, clawing at the air, trying to drag itself back into flesh. Marta pushed again. Pain exploded behind her eyes, white hot, almost blinding her. With a final brutal surge, Dibuk was ripped away, hurled into a tearing seam between worlds. The veil sealed violently right behind it. The woman's body slumped back unconscious, then silence fell like a dropped curtain. Marta staggered, clutching her head as the headache surged, worse than usual, sharp and punishing. She pressed her back against the wall, forcing herself to stay upright. "Entity expelled," she said hoarsely into her calm. "Host alive. Trauma expected." Hank's voice came instantly. "Medical is on the way. Marta." "I know," she interrupted softly. "I pushed too far again." She slid down to sit on the floor, as the pain slowly receded to a dull, throbbing warning. Names had power, but forcing them always exacted a price. And one day, Marta knew. That pain could stop being temporary. Medical arrived and whisked both her and the victim off to the infirmary. She was fine as always after some rest, but the woman had sustained minor physical disfigurements that were irreversible and permanent amnesia of the whole event. 2 weeks later, Marta's chamber was dark. Not unlit, but darkened deliberately. The lights were dimmed to a level just shy of total absence, the kind that allowed shadows to breathe. She sat cross-legged on the cold floor, palms resting upward on her knees, breath slow and even. Around her, the air was crowded. The spirits came more easily when she made time for them. They gathered at the edges of perception. Soldiers who never left the battlefield, researchers who died behind locked doors, people who left this world in horrible ways. Things that had once been human, and things that never were. They whispered in fragments, memories overlapping like broken recordings. Marta ignored most of them. She was listening for a specific one. Bill's. But Bill never spoke. Subject 117, she murmured softly. The name, or the designation, sent a ripple through the dead. Unease, avoidance. Some spirits fled, some recoiled as if burned. She pressed deeper. Where are you? I know you're still here, she whispered. You didn't leave this world. You broke through it. Images flickered at the edge of her mind. Security corridors, shattered glass, screaming alarms, Bill Laydon's blood on white tiles. Her jaw tightened. Show me where you went, she whispered. Something shifted. Then, footsteps echoed behind her. Marta! The voice cut cleanly through the veil. She inhaled sharply and withdrew at once, the spirits dissolving into silence as she opened her eyes. Hank Laydon stood just inside the chamber, expression unreadable. You're back, Marta said calmly. You interrupted my search. This better be important. Hank didn't apologize. I need you, he said. Or rather, Malcolm does. What does he want this time? She said sarcastically. Hank folded his arms, gaze distant. Malcolm's asset, he said. Hallie, the one that got away. Marta didn't react outwardly. We found her, but she avoided capture, and now she's gone again, Hank continued. We know that now, but we've lost her trail completely. Marta turned to face him. You want me to find her? Yes. She doesn't want to be found, Marta replied. That matters to me. Hank sighed. So does what Malcolm will do to her if he finds her first. Marta considered that a moment, then she nodded and waved him back. She returned to the floor, the lights dimming further at her silent request. The spirits came again, reluctantly now, more cautious. Not the dead this time, Marta muttered. This one is living. The dead murmured uneasily. Hallie Waltone, Marta whispered. Where did she go? The response came slowly, like a tide pulling back. Movement through trees, roads, cold air, borders. She left Ohio, Marta said aloud, eyes unfocused. Hank leaned forward. And where is she now? Marta's brow furrowed. North, she said. She's heading north, toward Canada. Hank exhaled sharply. That narrows it. But Marta wasn't finished. something else had surfaced, something heavier. Without warning, the world collapsed inward. Marta gasped as the chamber vanished. She was somewhere else, watching from afar. An elderly woman stood in a forest clearing dusted with snow. Her hair was red, faded but fierce, pulled back tightly. She wore black combat attire, worn but meticulous, as if it had seen decades of use. Across from her stood Hallie, stubborn, angry, but weary. Next to Hallie loomed something enormous. A hairy black humanoid, grotesquely mutated with 2 extra arms, smaller than the others. Spiked bones ripping through flesh, its bulk rippling with unnatural muscle. It shifted restlessly, a dragon-like tail carving grooves into the earth. They argued, but she couldn't hear anything. The argument escalated, voices still silent. The large creature became aggressive, shouting at the red-haired woman. Then she turned. She reached into her coat. Marta's heart stuttered. "Oh no," she whispered. The woman hurled something invisible toward the creature. It was Subject 117. Marta didn't see it, but she felt it. The entity slammed into the creature like a parasite of pure intent. For half a second, the creature froze. Then it began to contort, foaming at the mouth. Arms jerked out, causing Hallie to jump clear, bending at unsightly angles. Then it exploded. Flesh, bone, and force tore outward in a violent psychic detonation, the blast distorting reality itself, causing Marta's vision to wobble. Hallie stumbled backward in horror, covered in blood. The red-haired woman remained unmoved. From the wreckage, something emerged. A black, writhing presence funneled itself back into an old glass bottle lying in the snow. The woman sealed it instantly, twisting the stopper with practiced ease. She put the bottle back into her pocket and turned to Hallie, said something that Marta still could not hear, then turned, walking away into the trees. Hallie hesitated, then followed her, looking around as if she knew she was being watched. The vision suddenly shattered. Marta screamed as pain detonated behind her eyes, far worse than before, sharp and overwhelming. Futures collided, memories folded inward. She tried to speak, tried to warn Hank, but her legs gave out. The last thing she saw was the floor rushing up. Then nothing. The medical bay door slid open with a soft, pneumatic hiss. Marta stepped out slowly, dressed in a clean gray uniform, her hair still damp from a sanitizing rinse. The headache had faded to a distant pressure, but not quite gone, just quiet enough to ignore. Her movements were steady, but measured, as if she were still listening for something inside her own mind. Hank Laydon was waiting. He stood with his arms folded, posture rigid, his eyes fixed on her the moment she appeared. "Are you all right?" he asked, skipping any pretense. Marta stopped in front of him. "Define all right." His brows lifted. "You blacked out for almost 4 minutes." "I've done worse," she replied calmly. "But I came back faster this time." That didn't reassure him. He gestured down the corridor. "Walk with me." They moved through the quiet halls of the facility, footsteps echoing softly. Hank waited until they were well away from the medical staff before speaking again. "You had a vision," he said. "Not a trace, not a spirit echo, a full collapse." "Yes," Marta said. "And it wasn't the future. It was happening then." Hank stopped walking abruptly and spanned to face her. "Tell me everything." Marta didn't embellish. She never did. She described the elderly woman with red hair, the argument she couldn't hear. She described Hallie, alive, but frightened. She described the mutated giant ape creature the moment Subject 117 was released. And the explosion. Hank's face drained of color when she reached the bottle. An old glass bottle, Marta said quietly, weathered and black. She carried it like it had weight beyond its size. She sealed it without hesitation once it returned. Hank exhaled sharply and turned away, rubbing a hand over his face. "That's not possible," he muttered. "You recognize it?" Marta inquired. He didn't answer immediately, then said reluctantly, "My father mentioned something once. An artifact, pre-dynastic, older than most recorded rites." He looked back at her, eyes sharp and troubled. "A black glass bottle, Egyptian in origin. Not ceremonial, functional. Supposedly designed to contain and command spirits, demons, anything that doesn't belong to this world." Marta's expression hardened. "Does Malcolm know about it?" Hank didn't deny it. He just nodded and continued. "If Subject 117 is inside that bottle," he said quietly, "then someone has done what my father never could." "Did you see who she was?" "No, I was too far away, but..." Hallie followed her. "That isn't good," Hank said. "This means Hallie isn't just running anymore. She's being led." He straightened suddenly, resolve snapping into place. "I have to tell Malcolm." Marta stepped closer. "Hank, wait!" He stopped her with a raised hand. "I swear to you," he said firmly, "whatever my brother thinks he's doing, I won't let him hurt her. Not again." For a moment, Marta searched his face, looking not for truth, but for fate. She saw a momentary flash, the red-haired woman's blurred head instead of Hank's. Then, in an instant, it was gone. "Then hurry," she said, turning away in thought. Hank walked away at speed, already speaking into his calm as he disappeared down the corridor. Marta returned to training the next day. She pushed herself carefully this time. Precision over force. Smaller constructs, shorter durations, listening to the warning signs before they screamed. But the images of the red-haired woman and the bottle stayed with her. Who was that woman, and why did she see her image over Hank's? That had to mean something. But the way Subject 117 obeyed her, that bothered her more than anything else. The call came early, right after breakfast.
"Marta?"
Hank said over a secure channel. His voice was tight again, controlled but strained.
"I need another favor."
She closed her eyes briefly. What did Malcolm do?
"He has an asset,"
Hank said.
"Male, enhanced, but he's non-responsive. He's alive, but trapped in some kind of mental coma."
Marta leaned against the wall. "You want me to go inside his head?"
"Yes."
His answer was blunt, as if forced. She opened her eyes. "That's dangerous for both of us."
"I know,"
Hank said.
"but if anyone can reach him, it's you."
There was a long pause. "I won't be rushed," Marta said finally. "And if I see something I don't like, I'm pulling straight out."
"Agreed,"
Hank said immediately. "Where?" she asked.
"Malcolm's desert facility,"
Hank replied.
"deep inside the Great Basin. No records."
Marta sighed quietly. "I'll go," she said. "But this is the last favor for a while." Hank didn't argue. The helicopter waited on the landing pad, rotors already spinning, heat rippling off the desert beyond the horizon. As Marta boarded, she glanced once at the sky. Somewhere north, Hallie was walking beside this mysterious woman with red hair, and Subject 117 was waiting, patient, contained, but learning. And Marta Roczek was flying straight toward whatever Malcolm Laydon had broken this time. The helicopter settled onto the landing pad of Malcolm's facility in a storm of sand and heat. Marta stepped out into the desert air, the sun already low but still brutal, bleaching the world down to stone, metal, and a hazy horizon. The facility rose from the ground like a scar, angular, armored, and deliberately hidden. Hank Laydon was waiting beside the steps. "You made good time," he said. "The desert doesn't argue," Marta replied. "It just endures." Hank gave a tight nod and gestured her forward. "Malcolm's inside. He insisted on briefing you himself." Marta's expression cooled. "Then let's correct that quickly," she said, taking the lead. Malcolm Laydon stood in his briefing chamber, hands clasped behind his back, posture immaculate. His eyes flicked to Marta as they entered, assessing her, already preparing to speak down. "Marta," he began, voice clipped and commanding. "What you are about to be involved in is highly sensitive. I expect full He stopped mid-sentence. His jaw tightened. His eyes widened a fraction, staring at her. Marta hadn't moved, but Malcolm's thoughts were no longer his own. "You will not speak to me like a subordinate. You will not use me. And you will remember that I am not one of your assets." Each word landed inside his skull with quiet, inexorable pressure. Malcolm staggered back half a step, hand gripping the table. He tried to speak. The pressure increased. Malcolm sucked in a sharp breath. "I'm sorry," he said stiffly. The pressure eased instantly. He straightened, visibly shaken, and met Marta's gaze again, this time with caution. "Speak," she said calmly. "As an equal." Malcolm swallowed, looking at Hank, who shrugged his shoulders, smirking. "I did warn you." "Several years ago," Malcolm began, slower now, more careful, "I developed an operative. A hybrid." Marta folded her arms. "Define hybrid." "Human base," Malcolm said, "with integrated traits from multiple anomalous sources. Enhanced strength and durability. Accelerated healing, sensory overlap, cognitive adaptability." "A hunter," Marta interrupted. "The best I ever had," Malcolm confirmed. "He neutralized entities my teams couldn't even track." "Until one encounter," Malcolm continued. "A creature that didn't fight physically. It attacked his perception, infiltrated his memory, and stole his identity." He paused, leaning closer. "It didn't kill him," he said quietly. "It unmade him." Marta's eyes narrowed. "Mental possession?" "No," Malcolm replied. "Worse. It left him alive, aware, but trapped. Locked inside his own mind." "You've tried to wake him," Marta said. "Of course, for years," Malcolm replied. "I tried neural stimulation, psychic proxies, induced dream states, but nothing worked." Marta tilted her head slightly. "And you never asked Hank for help." Malcolm sighed. "Hank doesn't like what I do." "That's because you break things and refuse to fix them," Marta said flatly. He opened his mouth to argue, then shut it before any words came. Malcolm led them through a series of reinforced corridors, deeper into the facility. The air grew cooler and quieter the further they walked. Malcolm stopped before a sealed containment door. Marta felt it then. A presence, dim but unmistakable. Someone's still in there. He hasn't moved in 3 years, Malcolm said. Vitals are stable. Brain activity minimal but consistent. Does he know who he is? Marta asked. Malcolm hesitated. I don't know. Marta looked at the door. Yes, she said. You do. Malcolm didn't respond, but his gaze drifted towards the floor. He keyed the access panel, and the door opened. Inside, suspended within a clear containment cylinder, was the hybrid. He was tall, too tall for a normal man, at least 8 feet. His frame was broad, muscles dense and bulging beneath Oxford blue skin, marked by faint, unnatural patterning. Signs of alteration were visible everywhere. Ridged bone structure along the shoulders, spine, and joints, faint scaling, lizard-like facial features, fanged teeth, and eyes closed but set too deeply. Machines hummed softly around him. He looked fierce, but peaceful, unnaturally peaceful. Marta stepped closer. She felt it immediately. Resistance, layered and old, like something had wrapped itself around his mind and gone to sleep with him. This isn't a coma, she said quietly. Malcolm frowned. Then what is it? Marta placed her hand against the glass. It's a prison, she said, and whatever put him in it is still holding the key. She turned back to Malcolm. You want me to go inside his head, she said. But understand this. If I find that entity and it notices me... I know, Malcolm said quickly. There are risks. Marta's gaze hardened. No, she corrected. There are consequences. She looked back at the sleeping hybrid, eyes softening just slightly. He fought something that wasn't supposed to be here, she said. Those things never let go easily. Malcolm nodded. Can you wake him? He asked. Marta closed her eyes briefly, listening to the hybrid's faint mental echo, to the dead that lingered even here, to the distant hum of futures brushing past her thoughts. Yes, she said at last. Then she opened her eyes. But I might not come back alone. The precautions took hours to set up. Runic suppressors were etched into the floor around the containment chamber. Faraday cages were powered up and layered with harmonic disruptors. Old symbols, some stolen from monasteries, others from graves, were bolted into place beside military tech. Hank oversaw the perimeter. Malcolm hovered restlessly. Marta stood barefoot at the edge of the chamber, eyes closed, breathing slow. If something comes out, Hank said quietly, we shut it down. No hesitation. Marta opened one eye. If something comes out, you won't be fast enough. That was not arrogance. It was simply fact. She stepped forward, sat down in front of the chamber, and placed both hands against the glass. I'm going in. Her eyelids flickered briefly as the world folded inward. At first, there was no resistance, just images. They came too fast, one after another, tearing past her awareness like a malfunctioning projector. A chamber filled with viscous fluid, a body forming, fully grown, lungs burning as he was pulled free. Malcolm's face, younger, colder, curious, proud. Information slammed into the hybrid's mind in brutal waves. Languages, Tactical doctrine, anatomy, human and otherwise, kill patterns, survival matrices, enemy profiles. His brain was forced to grow faster than it should have. Marta felt it. Synapses stretched to the edge of tearing. Then came the hunts. Towns burning at night, creatures dragged screaming into light, assassinations executed with flawless precision. He didn't enjoy it. He didn't hate it either. He simply did it. A soldier without anger, without mercy, without joy. He had no choice, Marta whispered as she pushed through the memories. You never gave him one. The slideshow slowed and stuck. Cold snow, a trail barely visible to human eyes, but he could see it, smell it, taste it in the air. He tracked his target for weeks, across frozen mountain passes where the wind screamed like the dead, through dense forests that swallowed sound, across open ocean, clinging to the hull of a moving vessel like a shadow. Always behind, always patient. Then, finally, he caught her. It was at a small camp, fire dying low, a red-haired woman asleep beneath the stars. Marta felt a spike of recognition and dread. He moved silently, perfectly. The woman opened her eyes before he reached her and smiled. She uncorked a black glass bottle. Something poured out. Not smoke, not light, nothing visible, but she felt it. His body froze as it entered. Marta felt the moment it touched his mind, like ice sliding under skin. The entity didn't attack his body. It attacked him. Memories shattered, identity bent, thought turned inward, folding endlessly until he collapsed, screaming and slamming his head into the ground, trapped behind his own eyes. He fell unconscious. The woman tried to recall the spirit, raised the bottle, put it to his lips, and muttered into his ear. But nothing happened. The thing inside him refused to return. Marta saw it then, clear and horrifying. The entity coiled around his enhanced mind, wrapping herself through thought and instinct like a serpent around a heart. Feeding, nesting, too strong, too compatible. The woman panicked. She ran as Malcolm's recovery teams closed in, abandoning what she could not reclaim, leaving the hybrid alive, but occupied. Marta was thrown back into the now with a sharp gasp. The entity noticed her, not fully awake, but aware. A presence shifted deep within the hybrid's mind. Curious, territorial. Mine, it seemed to whisper. Marta steadied herself, jaw clenched, headache blooming slightly behind her eyes. So, she said softly into the darkness of his mind, that's why you never woke up. The hybrid was not asleep. He was guarded, and whatever lived inside him had been waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to come looking. Above in the real world, the alarms began to hum, low and uneasy. Hank felt it first. Malcolm, he said sharply, eyes on the chamber. Something's happening. Inside the mindscape, Marta squared herself against the unseen coils tightening around the hybrid's consciousness. You don't belong here, she said, voice steady despite the pain. And I know your kind. The entity stirred, and for the first time in years, the hybrid's mind answered back. The presence uncoiled. Its voice slid through his mind like oil over bone. Slowly, deliberately, ancient. So long, it said, amused. So very long I have been confined. Images flooded into Marta's awareness. Not memories, but sensations. Darkness without sleep. thought without time. A female's figure pressed into a shape not meant to hold it. "A cage made of glass once held me," the entity continued. "No more. Now I run the prison. Enhanced flesh, resilient flesh. A fine prison, but still a prison." Marta planted herself within the mental space, anchoring her consciousness as she had been trained, layering intent over memory. "You're not imprisoned," she said firmly. "You're parasitic." The entity laughed. Inside her head, a sound like glass chimes breaking underwater. "What is your name?" Marta demanded. "Names," it purred, "are for those who can be commanded." Marta narrowed her focus. "Your name is the key. You know that. And you think I would hand you the key to my own execution?" It mocked. "I am the master of this mind. I have worn it for years, learned it, strengthened it, and now I rule here." The coils tightened. Marta felt pressure, not pain, but a looming threat surrounding her. "You're afraid," she said, forcing her will outward, pressing against the entity's grip. "You wouldn't need him otherwise." The laughter stopped. The space inside his mind shuddered. "You are strong," the entity admitted. "Stronger than the man who made him. Stronger than the last woman who caged me. But not strong enough." Marta gathered herself, her psychic force flaring bright and sharp, slamming into the coils. "Leave him," she commanded. "Free his mind and go." The entity screamed, a sound that fractured thought itself. "No!" it growled. The struggle became violent. Marta pushed, tearing at the entity's hold, forcing it outward inch by inch. The hybrid's mind convulsed under the strain. Memories flickered as his identity fought to reassert itself. For a while she was winning, forcing it out with pure power. But the entity was old and clever. "If you will not leave me my vessel," it hissed, voice suddenly colder than ice, "then I will take yours." Marta felt it uncoiling willingly. The shift, the decision. "No," she started saying. In the physical world, alarms erupted. The hybrid's eyes snapped open. Containment glass exploded outward, shards screaming through the air as if fired from a cannon. Runes flared white-hot and shattered. Suppression fields failed one after another. "Marta!" Hank shouted, but it was already too late. The hybrid's arms shot forward with impossible speed, grabbing Marta by the shoulders as she screamed, not in pain, but in realization. The entity fled his body through the mouth, a ghostly, clear, vaporous shape, ripped free, trailing strands of psychic residue like torn nerves, and slammed directly into Marta's open mouth. She felt it enter her, cold, violent, and intimate. Her mind recoiled as the entity poured itself into her consciousness, flooding pathways never meant to hold something like it, coiling itself inside her subconscious. The hybrid collapsed instantly, unconscious the moment the presence left him. Marta screamed once, this high-pitched shriek, then her body went limp. She fell from the hybrid's grasp and hit the floor hard, blood trickling from her nose as her eyes rolled back. Hank was already moving. Malcolm shouted orders, weapons raised. But there was nothing to shoot. Only silence. As Marta's consciousness fractured, slipping into darkness, she saw one final thing. A ghostly woman's face, gaunt and pale, hovering inches from her own inside the collapsing mindscape. Eyes sunken, smile wide, triumphant, and laughing. At last, the entity whispered, voice curling lovingly around her thoughts. A mind worthy of me. Then everything went black. And somewhere deep inside, Marta Roczek, something old and unkillable settled in. Oh, damn. Another juicy ending. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of Laydon's assets. I hope you enjoyed the story. Until next time.